Okay, welcome back to the next part of the video, another Orbiter 2010 video here in the XR2 on a mission from Earth to Phobos, and I kind of botched the fuel planning a bit, so we had to skip Phobos and just land at Mars. In the last video, I brought the XR2 down to the atmosphere of Mars and did the aero braking so that I could get captured by the Martian system. Then we did a big orbit out away from Mars, about a half day, and are now coming back down to the atmosphere. And the point of that big half-day orbit was to allow Mars to rotate enough so that Olympus runway would be in front of our position when we came back down. Otherwise, we would had to have gone completely around Mars one full time in the atmosphere, and that would have been fine. It just would have been a little bit time-consuming because you can't really accelerate time when you're in the atmosphere, whereas if you go back out into space, you can accelerate time. So strictly a time-saving measure. Now I'm going to unpause and come back to the flight. And what I'm trying to do here at this point of the flight is just get myself lined up with the Mars runway, or with the Olympus runway. According to map MFD, I'm still 6,000 kilometers out, and I've got plenty of velocity. If we look at orbit MFD, you can see that I'm still, I have enough energy to send me way out into space if I wanted. So one priority is to bring the velocity down a bit, but not too much too fast, because we still have a ways to glide. So we'll take advantage of the speed that we have to help cover that distance a little more quickly. But we also want to, as a high priority, get lined up with the runway as quickly as possible. At least before we get to about 2,000 kilometers, we want to make sure we're lined up, somewhere by that point. So watching my vertical speed, don't want to be too high in the atmosphere, because then we will, lose our grip and end up going out and around, and I don't want that. But again, I don't want to be too low necessarily either, because we will just lose all of our energy, and it'll take an especially long time to get over to the runway. And of course, if we lose too much energy, we would, come up short, and we definitely don't want that. So for now, let's bring up surface MFD on this side, and I'll tell you what I'm looking at. Let me get rid of some of this vertical speed first. So I know that the runway at Olympus is at a heading of 12.745 degrees north latitude. Here it says 12.75 degrees north latitude, but if you look at aerobrake MFD, you get another digit of precision, and you actually need that third digit in order to get perfectly lined up with the runway. So I want my equatorial position to be 12.745 degrees north latitude, and currently my equatorial position is 22.795 degrees north latitude. And I can tell if I'm going to the north or to the south based on my rate. Currently it shows I'm moving to the south by... Actually, let me think about that for a second. Actually, I'm moving to the north by this number, by 0.023, and that's not what I want. So let me roll over the other direction. Although technically, I guess that is what I want at the moment, because what I'm doing is I'm bending my orbital plane. You can see my orbital plane's getting closer to Olympus, and for now, at least, that's what I want. But once my orbital plane is at Olympus, then I want to, work on my equatorial position, and this needs to be 12.745 degrees. So these types of landings, not real exciting, not a lot to talk about, and it just takes a while. It's something you have to do in real time. You can't really get away with any time warp hardly at all. So watch the video if you want, don't watch it if you don't want. If this particular part of the video happens to be short on commentary, I apologize, But for one thing, my throat's bothering me a little bit. Not even sure why. But the other thing is that I just typically when I'm going around or going, doing these videos, I have a lot to talk about because I can always warp time forward to the next thing. It's like, okay, we're done with this. Now let's warp time forward and get to the next point. And then we talk about that point. And then I can warp time forward to the next critical point and so on. But when you're in the atmosphere like this, let me take a sip of water. When you're in the atmosphere like this, obviously I cannot warp time forward to the next point. So all I can really do is just keep reiterating the same thing, what I'm doing right now, waiting for the orbital plane to come up so that I'll be crossing Olympus, which will be happening here shortly. Then once that happens,
Mach 16.
Then I'll coast a little bit, I suppose, towards Olympus, and then, start working out my equatorial position as I go. And then, of course, all the while watch the velocity. Now we're suborbital, so we got to be careful not to lose too much velocity. Still got 5,000 kilometers to go. That's quite a bit. In fact, I'll bring the air brake back in for now. Okay, now you can see that the orbital plane is crossing Olympus runway, so I'm going to take out my elevator trim now. And I don't have to worry about skipping out of the atmosphere anymore because of my velocity is low enough that I will not climb out too high, although it's still possible that I could have an apoapsis higher than I would want. So let me check. Yeah, my apoapsis is low enough. I don't have to worry about that.
APU fuel 80%.
Okay, so let me think about this. You know what I actually need to do? I guess I actually need to bring my orbital plane the other direction because I need to get down here. So I can't have my orbital plane passing way out in front of all the way over to Olympus like that. That's not going to work. So I was wrong on that. That was a mistake. I'm going to have to bend the orbital plane so that I'm coming down. So let me put in full up elevator trim again, so we can get all the steering that we need in the other direction. Hopefully that wasn't a catastrophic type of mistake that will cause this whole part to be a failure. I think it'll be okay. I think we still got enough velocity and enough altitude and enough time. We still got 4,700 meters to go, or kilometers rather. Yeah, I need to bend this orbital plane so that it's well down. That way I can then straighten myself out when I get over to here. Again, I don't do a lot of this. I don't do a lot of runway landings on Mars. It's not something I have a ton of practice with. I did spend quite a bit of time last year on Dimitri's challenge until I finally got it. But that was the last time I actually did a runway landing, so I'm definitely not practiced on this. And while I'm waiting, let me bring up Aerobrake MFD. Should still have plenty of energy. Getting a little concerned about that though, so I'm going to climb out till I'm at 40 kilometers. That way I'm in a nice thin part of the atmosphere. But watch the vertical speed. Okay, now we should be moving south, so let me bring back up surface MFD. Yeah, now we're moving south. So again, the equatorial position needs to be 12.745. So we want to be moving toward the south. But because of the fact that it takes so long to make changes, that when we get down to like 14 degrees, I'll want to start banking back the other direction to eliminate some of this rate. See my rate here, this is basically how fast I'm heading toward the south. And the higher that rate is, the the faster I'll be getting closer to the equatorial position I need. But if let's say I keep on the current flight path all the way to 12.745 and then turn over, well, I'll still have a lot of rate in that direction, so I'll end up at 11 degrees, 10 degrees, and so on, and I don't want that. So we're at 24.8 degrees and just going to keep flying this way until the equatorial position is like 14, 15 degrees north. Okay. What I can also do is take out the elevator trim now. And I can roll to a heads-up position and just glide straight because I've got enough rate. What I'm actually a little concerned about at the moment is that I may have allowed myself to slow down too much. Let me check aerobrake MFD. No, it shows that I'm still, that's the target, and I'm still well past that, so I should be okay. Put in a bit of up elevator just to make sure I glide. That being the case, let me turn off the APU.
APU offline.
Save some of that fuel, and I can get away with a tiny, tiny amount of time warp, like 2x or 3x. See, you're getting closer to the 12.745. Getting closer to the base, obviously. Let's see if we can get away with 4 times. Actually, let me bring up aerobrake on this side. I don't think I really need map MFD anymore.
Mach 14.
We're at 19.5 degrees north. The only thing about these MFDs is that it doesn't tell me the distance to the base. Never mind, I've got it here on the HUD. Olympus runway's 3,000 kilometers out. Yeah, I don't really get that information on this MFD. Anyway, okay, now we're down to 16 degrees. So let me actually start slowing things down here a little bit. Let's go back to 1x. Let's get a little closer first. And then I'll show you what I mean. We'll be in front of the runway at that point. 14 degrees, 14 and a half. And remember, we're going for 12.75. Okay, now what I want to do is start banking.
Rotation.
I really need to conserve that rotation, so let me actually
Translation.
use the APU instead.
Pitch.
So I'm going to start banking toward the north so that my rate here gets closer to 0. Matter of fact, I waited too long, I can already tell. Plus, I'm still so high up in the atmosphere that it's... So I'm going to get to 12.745, and then I'm going to go past it. So let's put in full up elevator trim. See now the rate here, that's how fast I'm moving to the south. And I would like that to be 0.00000 by the time I get to 12.745, and that's not going to happen, so I'm going to have to bank the other way for a while. See, there's 12.745, so we're exactly in front of the runway right now. If you bring up map, see, we're basically directly in front of the runway. So now I need to bring the rate to the north, because currently we're still going to the south. So I waited too long. I waited way too long. Darn it. Oh well. Again, I gotta watch my altitude and vertical speed. If I get too low in the atmosphere, I'll slow down too much too fast and then not have the energy to make it over to Olympus at all. And I'm actually kind of worried that I've already crossed that point where I'm too slow to make it over there. But you can see now we're to the south of the runway by over a full degree, almost 2 degrees. Just watching this rate, it's getting closer to 0, but now I need it to go into the north because I got to climb back up to 12.745. So that's the frustrating thing about overshooting. But here you can see just, because the atmosphere is so thin that it just takes a really long time to make those kinds of changes. You can't just simply show up at Olympus and then do a quick spiral down to the runway like you can on Earth. You've got to think ahead by thousands of kilometers.
Mach 13.
Really, really worried about my energy level being too low. Yeah, looks like we still got enough, but boy, I'm cutting it close here. Slowly climb up a little bit. Okay, the rate is now 0, and now it's going back to the north, so we're now going to be getting closer to 12.745. Now here, I don't want to do the opposite. I don't want to end up with a rate to the north that's so high that I end up overshooting in the other direction. So I'm just going to let this get up to maybe, I don't really know what the right number even is, but just a little bit. I guess now I'll start taking out the elevator trim. Now let me go back to sort of a wings level position, and we'll kind of glide this way and just get a feel for things. Yeah, according to Aerobrake, I'm still going to make it I'm still going to make it to the base easily, so that's good. So what I'll do now is just glide in this position, climbing slowly to the north. And then when I get to, you know, like 12.25 degrees or something like that, then I'll want to start eliminating this rate. So what you have to have happen,
APU fuel 70%. APU offline.
what you have to have is you have to be at 12.745, and then you need a rate that's exactly 0.0000. So that means you're in line with the runway, and you're neither going north nor south. And this, I think that actually only works due to the fact that the runway is perfectly east to west. This would be a nightmare if the runway were, you know, at a 45-degree angle to the equator or something. I don't even know how you'd do it. Because then you're obviously, you can't just rely on, you know, having an equatorial position of, you know, some number, because if you're coming up out, if you're going to have to land sideways to the equator, or sort of at an angle to the equator, then your equatorial position is going to constantly be changing, and your rate is going to be, you know, you can't just have a nice round easy number. All right. So I'll do a little bit more time warp. We are 2,000 kilometers out. So we'll work time forward at a factor of 4 to get a little bit closer to that 12.745 figure. And I've got a little bit of a bank angle here, which is fine. You can see my rate is getting slowly, it's slowly zeroing out. That's not bad, that's fine.
Mach 12.
Okay, we're at 11.275, so we've still got about 1.5 degrees to go, and our rate's getting closer to 0. And we're 1,500 kilometers out. Let me go back to real time, and let me increase my rate just a little bit, because
Rotation.
or at least I don't want it zeroing out, because we're still a ways out. I'm trying to think if I'm banking the right way or not. Let me just go full sideways, and then I'll know. Guess not, because the rate keeps going down, so let's bank the other way. Seems backwards to me. Check my RCS level, still 3.2%. But yeah, now you can see the rate's increasing, so we're, even though I'm banked toward the north, I'm somehow still getting a bank angle that's... No, wait, yeah, this is right. All right, I was just thinking backwards, okay. So 11.549, 11.55, 12.745 is the magic. This is the number we're going for, so we still have 1 full degree and then some to go. I don't want to overdo the rate, so I want to increase it a little bit more so we can get to that 12.745 figure, because we're getting pretty close to the base. You know, when you get down less than 1,000 kilometers out, things happen quite quickly. But if I overdo the rate, then what will end up happening is I'll end up at that 12.745 figure on the equatorial position, then I'll overshoot it, and that's a problem. What you'll see here also in aero brake is when we get fairly close to the base and you can see the plus sign here, that's our ship. You'll see it on the zoomed in view, and what you want to see when you're coming in for a runway landing on Mars is you want your plus sign to be exactly on that center point, and then you'll see a solid green line from there over. That's what you want. If you show up
11.
and you see your plus sign here or here, especially if it's way down there or way up there, you're never going to land on the runway. You're just way too far out. Okay, we are 1 degree to go, and that number's ticking by, I was going to say it's ticking by pretty quick, but we still got a little bit to go. And we're 1,000 kilometers out. So with only a few minutes left on this part of the video, and then what I'll do, hopefully I can get to the 12.745 in this part, then I'll end this part, and then hopefully in the next part we'll be able to make it the rest of the way to the runway and land. So we're at 11.9. Equatorial position here. If we bring up map MFD real quick, we can see how things look. Zoom way in on our position. Okay, we're at 12 degrees. Still have 900 kilometers to go, so I don't want to zero out my rate just yet. Okay, 12.1. I think that's probably all the rate I want. So I'm going to go back to the center now so that the rate doesn't increase anymore. And actually, I think I'll probably start taking out some of the rate now as well, so we'll bank the other way. 12.2. When we're at 12.245, then we're exactly a half degree out. Okay, we're basically a half degree to go, so 12.745, so yeah, half degree. So yeah, let's bank this way and start eliminating the rate. Only 700 kilometers to go. Eek.
APU offline.
See, I should really be lined up by now. Okay, I don't want to be in a position where I have to pause while I'm thinking about things, and things are going to start happening really fast now. So I'm going to go ahead and end this part of the video here. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed and you like all this content. You'll be notified when I upload new orbiter videos if you subscribe. Please leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next video.